Okay, so hi everyone and welcome for today's session. So far we've had really amazing speakers, so I hope you'd also have fun with my session. Also thanks for Wafa's session as well, because it kind of acts as an introduction to what I'm gonna be discussing. I might go a little bit into details more for React as a library itself and its use cases. So let's see. All right. So my name is Shorook. I'm actually a full stack developer, or you could say a full stack R&D engineer, something like that. What I do is that I kind of not master, but I use different kinds of tech stacks and frameworks just to make sure that whatever product or solution that we're making fits the market. So I use ReactJS, React Native, Django, Node.js, Docker, Kubernetes. I do UI, UX, I do a lot of things. So yeah, so that's me. Okay, so let's just get into it. First of all, how many of you know what React is? Have you used it before? Things like that. Maybe you can see. Okay. Don't see anyone in the chat engaging, but okay. So for React, for example, there's one main misconception a lot of people make is that React is not a framework. React is a library. It's a really powerful library that gives you the feeling that it's actually a framework. So yeah, so that's the first misconception that a lot of people make about React. So before we say what is React, I'm gonna try and convince you to actually learn React. So one of the things that we should all know is that JavaScript, so this is a Stack Overflow's 2021 developer survey. They do this survey every year with thousands of developers putting their own responses in regards to the type of frameworks they use, the type of frameworks that are popular or loved or wanted by all developers. So if you can see here on the right, one of the most used programming languages or common is JavaScript. So JavaScript is really common because you can use it for back-end and front-end development. As you heard from Wafa, you can you use JavaScript for TypeScript for Angular, which is the type form of JavaScript. All of the web is basically built on JavaScript and HTML, CSS. So this is one thing. And obviously, because there is a lot of use cases for JavaScript, you're going to find a lot of job opportunities for JavaScript developers. The second thing that you can see is that, yeah, it says framework, but because of how JavaScript is, because of how ReactJS is very powerful, a lot of people just group it with frameworks, but it is a library. So React kind of surpassed jQuery as the most commonly used web library, as you can see here. And what it is also the top most wanted library for developers. So yeah, so this is how popular React.js is. Now, what is React? React is actually a declarative, based on the definition that is on the documentation. React is a declarative, efficient, flexible JavaScript library for building user interfaces. If you've noticed from the last session where Wafa was discussing the MVC structure, model, view, controller, if you're not familiar with that, so React acts as the view part, which is the front end part of any for web interface designs and UI design. It lets you compose complex UIs from small isolated codes. We call them components. So each item on a screen would come into as a component. So for example, the search bar here, this is from Instagram. By the way, Instagram was built using ReactJS. Here's another component, which is the profile description component, the stories component, the list component for the posts, and then the single component for each post. So this is how you actually modularize your design for your web app. You break them into smaller parts of components, which helps you debug, build them, and what do you call it? Stylize them as much as you want. What is also cool about ReactJS is that it's an open source library, so anyone can actually contribute to it. A lot of other libraries have been made for like component libraries that you can use to implement with React. Another cool thing about React is that React is, you can use it for mobile development. So there is a version of React called React Native. You can, what is also very famously known, and one of the most things that you should know about ReactJS is that the powerful thing about it is that it creates a virtual DOM to manipulate the real DOM, which is a very efficient and a very fast way of doing things to make updates to the interface. So the main features is that you can create dynamic applications easily. You can improve the performance of your web app. So React uses, as I said, the virtual DOM, creating web applications, which helps create web applications faster. So we're gonna explain how the virtual DOM works. So this is one of the main aspects of React that everyone needs to know before you start using it. Reusability of its components. So if you create a component once, like you see here, for example, this single post, you can use it multiple times without having to repeat your code. It uses unidirectional data flow. We're also going to explain what that is. And then it also, it has a really small learning curve. I remember Wafa also mentioned that she didn't have a hard time learning React, which is a really nice thing. And then it can also be used for development for both web and mobiles, as I said. So it has React Native, another library for mobile development, which produces iOS and Android apps. It has amazing dev tools that helps you debug your code and understand and build better apps using it. So yeah, so these are like the main features of React. Oh yeah, and one more thing is that it uses JSX. So we're gonna explain what JSX is. JSX is basically it's a syntax extension for JavaScript, and it stands for JavaScript XML. So what it does is that it allows you to write HTML directly within JavaScript. This has a lot of benefits, and it lets you have the full programmatic power of JavaScript within HTML. And it helps you keep your code readable. So you can actually see that this is the dev and this is the title. We're gonna explain what props are. This is your unordered list and things like that. So for the most part, JSX is similar to HTML, but it's a mixture between HTML and JavaScript. All right. So what is the virtual DOM? So or DOM stands for Document Object Model, and that is what you usually see displayed on your interface, your user endpoint. So I hope I'm not going too fast. So if anyone has any questions on what we've just discussed before, yeah. Okay. Feel free to ask any questions if you need. Right now, what we're doing is that we're explaining the main concepts of React. Okay. So what is the virtual DOM? So basically the virtual DOM is an approach that helps you to represent the actual DOM in a virtual way. So what React does is that it takes a copy of the real DOM, which is your structure of all of your document components. So each of these is a child-parent structure. So for example, if you've seen the previous slide, here, we have the main parent component, which is the dev. And then we have two children component, which is the header and the unordered list. And then the children of the unordered list, which are the list items. If you look at here, it's also similar to that. So in the real DOM, you have the main component, the dev, that traps all of these components. And then the children, which is the header, and then the unordered list, which has unordered the list items inside of it. So what React does is that it takes a copy of the real DOM and creates a virtual DOM, which is stored in the memory. And usually it's synced with the real DOM by the library called React DOM. And this process is called reconciliation. So what do we mean by that? Is that when it takes a copy of the virtual DOM, it keeps a previous state of how it looks like, and then it creates a current state of the changes that happens there. So for example, I add, through an event, I add another item to the list, unordered list. So what's gonna happen here is that React is gonna look at the difference and compare it between the previous, look at the current state and then compare it with the previous state and creates a difference where you need the only patch that you need to update on the real DOM. So this is a very what do you call it? Powerful way of calculating and updating the real DOM, and it helps keeping things fast, efficient, and it doesn't cause us. It's always updating. It's always in sync with the real DOM. So yeah, so that is basically what is the virtual DOM and the real DOM. Now we can before we talk about the component lifecycle. So what I said about React is that because you can create modularized components out of it, out of its content. Each component can have its own life cycle. And when we talk about a life cycle, a component has three phases. The first phase is the mounting, the second is updating, and the third is an unmounting. So in the mounting phase, you render the component. So you create a constructor. The constructor is the one that has the state or the information for the React component, and then it renders the component on the screen. And after that, React updates the DOM with the references of the changes that are applied on the virtual DOM. And then you have a method called component.mount. So React has several methods or functions that you can use or utilize, so you can actually understand the way the life cycle works and utilize it for whatever conditions or services that you're trying to make. So for example, in the updating life cycle part is that it doesn't reinitialize the whole component, or it doesn't recreate the constructor. It just updates the render method. And it usually happens when a new prop or the state changes, or you're forcing an update on the component, for example. So what we're also going to explain what are props and what are states. Yeah, and then the final part of the life cycle is the unmounting, which is that the component just gets removed from the DOM. So yeah, so that's basically the main life cycle for the components in React. Now, what we were talking about the what do you call it? Yeah, the props and the state. So props are basically values or what do you call it? Let's say params that you pass from a component to a component. So say this is your parent component, and this parent component needs to change a value inside the child component. So the way we do it is that we pass it through something called props. At the same time, each component has their own state. So a state is basically something that describes the current component and its current view. And whatever other, and it's usually defined in the constructor. So how do we use this and when do we use these things? So let's do some examples. We're gonna do how to create a React app, right? And how to apply some of the concepts that we just learned, all right? So we have something, the main command for creating a React app to give you like a React app template is create React app, all right? Let me see if I can share my screen. To help you out and for you to not create, to install anything on your system or device, you can use something called Replit, all right? So let me share my screen. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So what's nice about Replit is that you can actually create, what do you call it? A project instantly, all right? So you go create and you select the template. So let's say we want ReactJS. There's also a TypeScript form for React if you'd like, but we're gonna go with that. And what we're gonna do is that we're gonna work with a list view called Rick and Morty. All right, let's create that. And what it's gonna do, it's gonna initialize everything for you. It will create the files, and it will even give you the console, and it will even give you a web view inside of the system. Sorry, this IDE. Let's see. All right. So what you could do here is, one second. Right. All right. So you have here. So the main structure for a React JS app is that you have an index.html. So the index.html has a div here called root. Inside this root is the part where the React components are being displayed. And if you go to the source folder, go to app.jsx, you're going to find, main.jsx. So here, as if you remember, I mentioned the React DOM library, which helps you render the component inside of the HTML. And it creates the React app component that we take from the app.jsx. So where do we start making things or changing things? We do it here inside the app.jsx. So if I run this, it will show me, yeah. So the first thing, a lot of things that you later on need to learn about is that what's a node package manager. So because we use different libraries within our project, React is not the only library there. There is NPM libraries out there. And because React is utilizing the node server, so to display the app in front of you like you're seeing it here. So for example, let's change here something and say hello. All right. And it will instantly update the changes for you. So this is really cool and helpful for development, right? You don't have to every time build a new app, stop your server, restart your app and things like that. All right. Yeah. So this is how easy it is to start the React app. If you want to create a different So for example, I want to use another, what do you call it, dev. Here's an H1 dev, and this is for a title. So let's say title, right? And it will show you a title. You can also stylize your components using CSS itself, right? So you can say color. So this will change the color for your title. It should change to red. Yep. So this is how easy and nice React is. So yeah, I think that's it. I kind of went over the time limit.
That's okay. Thank you so much. Is this template shareable or?
Yeah, you can actually just create a new one. So just go to replit.com. So I'll just send this link here, and anyone can actually go in and start working with React. What's nice also about Replit, it provides other templates. So you can, if you want to learn Node.js, if you want to learn, I think Angular even is there. It's very simple. You just go in and just create triple, and then choose the template. So I think there is a Angular.
Someone is asking if it's free.
Yeah, it is free. It's completely free. I don't think Angular is available, but there's Python, environment, Java, C++, anything you want. I like this. I usually like using this for my workshops because the attendees don't have to worry about setting up their own environment and things like that. So yeah, just go ahead and start using it.
So cool.
Yeah, and yeah, because and one last thing for anyone who's interested in learning React in general and JavaScript, there is something called Free Code Camp, right? Free Code Camp is one of my favorite websites actually for learning. And it's really good and easy for beginners. So you can just go to Free Code Camp and then go to front-end development libraries. And you're gonna find a lot of different things. Bootstrap, jQuery, Sass for CSS, React. And then it goes a little bit deeper with the level of development. So yeah, I hope that was a good enough overview.
It was. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And
I personally love React though.
Really?
It's my favorite, yeah.
Yeah, it's really easy. And it's scalable. And as I've mentioned, the learning curve is not really hard. You just need JavaScript, and then you're good to go. A little bit of HTML and CS, obviously.
Exactly. Thank you so much for being with us, Shorook.
You're very welcome.
This was
Thank
very
you for having
informative.
me. It was really nice.